welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up. Our guest today is Karen Storsteen, and she's here today to talk to us about intuitive intelligence. Karen is known for her remarkable combination of talents as psychotherapist, psychic medium, executive coach, management consultant, public speaker, and media personality. So let's welcome to the show, Karen.
Thanks so much, Marianne, for having me.
It is such a pleasure to have you here. My goodness, you're so highly gifted and just such an amazing person. I was just so delighted to hear that you are coming out to Colorado. You've got this event and all these great things going on, so I couldn't wait for us to talk.
Oh, well, thanks. And I, as some of the listeners might know, that I moved not long ago to San Diego, and I miss Colorado because I was there for 30 years. So a lot of my clients are still there and, events and see clients and everything. So I'm looking forward to it. Of course, here in sunny San Diego, it's sort of like we're just starting to see the leaves change, and here we are in January.
Well, that will probably be like 3 trees out there because everything else will stay green.
Yeah, it's like New Year's Day I was in my bathing suit lying out in the sun, so it's a little bit different weather, but I miss it out there, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we're lucky that you come out here often, and you've got an office not actually far from where I'm at, near Park Meadows Mall. We'll talk about all that great stuff in a little bit. But I was so intrigued by this, this topic, intuitive intelligence. And, I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit. How did you even get started on this path of, learning more about intuitive gifts?
Well, I've always been intuitive, and I've always been psychic, and actually we all are, because the definition of psychic is really of the soul. But just like some people are born, with more coordination or with a singing voice, we can all sing, but some people are a little bit more highly attuned to it. Mm-hmm. And so it's in my family. My mother was really intuitive, and actually my father was a surgeon and GP, and he would never, ever have said he was psychic, but he was very intuitive. And so I grew up with metaphysics, and I grew up with mind over matter, and I think my daughter actually best answered that. We were interviewed not long ago for a TV series, and the producer said to my daughter, because it is in the family, it's in the genes, and the producer asked her, and how did you know that you were psychic? And she said, well, how did you first know that you could see? And so it's always been there, and certainly our environment, not only our genetics affects it, but our environment as well. And in my family, my mother, because I was brought up with metaphysics, my mother really emphasized really listening to our heart and trusting our gut. And so I feel like I've always been that empath and really in tune with people, which is one of the reasons that I started in human development, working with individuals to help them reach the potential 30 years ago. And then became a psychotherapist about 16 years ago. And then at that time, Marianne, I finally came out of the closet as a professional psychic, which was just a really scary thing for me to do. But it's really actually accessing our highest level of intelligence, intuitive intelligence. And so it's so important that I thought, and it really is our highest level of intelligence, I thought I really need to get the word out there. And I started researching the science behind it, quantum physics and neuroscience, and working with leaders in the field and teaching people how to access it.
Which I find absolutely amazing, by the way, because, here you have this combination of being a psychotherapist. your executive coach, your public speaker, your radio personality, and then to add the psychic medium part to it, I can understand where that would be a little scary because people would look and go, gosh, she is like a businesswoman and she's got that together. And for some people, the psychic medium part might seem like it's a little woo-woo when it's just another, like facet of what creates you.
Oh, it's so true. It's just so funny how the word psychic has, especially in the past, it's gotten such a bad rap, just that the name of it and what it conjures up in people's heads. Well, thank you for that too. And yeah, it was, I actually started doing management consulting and working with, Fortune 500 companies and turning them around and reorganizing them and developing universities for leaders in these companies and, really using the intuitive and analytical brain. And I just thought, gosh, to come out with this, I started calling it intuitive leadership and intuitive intelligence and explaining the science behind it so that I could normalize what is common really for all of us. And it would be so wonderful because, Marianne, I've like you said, I've been doing a lot of public speaking for years. And so when I started coming out with this and doing a lot of research on it, I was speaking to the Project Management Institute and Mensa, the High IQ Society, and the Financial Association, and all of these different industries. And what I would find is that when I would get these people into one of my 2-day classes, like these leaders into my 2-day classes, and they would start to use their own intuition with people that they'd never met before, they started to see their own brilliance, and then they would start to have conversations about, like, well, how is it that I knew something about you, like what street you lived on, without having that information? There's just no way of knowing that. Or, how is it that at least 45% of the class has had experiences with loved ones who have passed, and they've seen them at the end of their bed, or they woke up when their loved one passed, and all of this. And so I think that it is a lot more normal, quote unquote, than we sometimes say it is, but it's that a lot of people don't really want to talk about it. Do you know what I mean? But if we say exactly. Intuition, that's okay.
Yeah, intuition's okay because it's not quite woo-woo. It's like, because, you hear men talk about, well, I just went with my gut. And, women, they always talk about women's intuition, knowing everything, like we have eyes in the back of our heads. We just have it down. So there's some common phrases that people use in regards to intuition that are very normal. And it's just fascinating when you bring it into the work sector, because we all have it, like you're saying, and we all use it, but it's like, to what degree? And I know that you do these 2-day seminars where people can learn how to better tap into their intuition and use it every day.
Right, exactly. And for me, I always think of intuition and psychic ability on the same continuum. It's just that sometimes, we're more in tune than other times, and sometimes, we have these like major experiences where we say, no, that seemed miraculous, or that seemed really paranormal. But every day, if people start to concentrate on like how active their intuition is, they would really start to see how amazing their own brilliance is. And actually, you talked about women's intuition. The research does show that women are more intuitive than men, although men are intuitive too. But it does have to do with the way our brains are wired. And intuition, Marianne, it's the combination of using our left and right brain and nonlinear and linear processing. So, sometimes we've been taught, well, that intuitive side is on that right side of the brain. But like I said, it's actually our highest level of intelligence. And so what happens is that when your intuition kicks in, all of your intelligences kick in and line up at the same time. So social, emotional, practical, analytical, and creative intelligences all line up. And we know that there's nothing faster than using your intuition because, and we've all had those experiences where you have that instant information, like that aha moment, that instant insight where you know exactly what to do. And whether we say, it's our gut, it's our heart, which actually neurologically is true. It's both of those prior to affecting our brain. But, we all have had those experiences where you just have that instant insight and you just know. And sometimes you don't even know how you know, but you do.
And it ends up working out in your benefit or your favor.
Exactly, because I've never heard anybody say, I wish I hadn't listened to my intuition. That was a really bad idea. That just never happened.
I've never heard that either. Yeah.
But we can all go back and say, gosh, there's been so many times where, my intuition said, don't buy that house or don't take that job or, do invest in this or don't, don't get involved in that relationship. And what do? We do it oftentimes anyway because our rational brain, we think, well, let me listen to my rational brain, and or we have wishful thinking or our fears take over, and we don't listen to it. And so it's really exponential productivity improvement because there's nothing faster and there's nothing that's going to be more accurate and more valid than our intuition ever.
Yeah, I get that because there have been times when I've not listened to mine, and then later on I would think to myself, gosh, I should have done, what that gut feeling was. I should have paid attention to my intuition, and you can kind of tell when things are off.
Oh, we can always tell when things are off. And I always think, everything is in the present moment, and so we always have all the information we need right in the present moment. It's just that sometimes we don't really want to look at it. And, for example, if people can think of, the listeners can think of a time where they were in a relationship that just didn't work, And if you go back to the first time that you had some kind of an interaction with that person, it could have been on the phone or it was in person or whatever, there was a lot of information in that first interaction that you were getting, that you were receiving, but oftentimes you're just not fully paying attention to it, or you think, oh, I need, to spend more time with this person, or, maybe this is based on my past or whatever. Maybe I can change this person, or, we idealize, we want that person to be what we want them to be. But all of the information you need is always right there in the present. And actually, you don't even need to be in front of someone. It doesn't really, our intuition doesn't even have to do with any body language either. It's because it's all energy. It's amazing what we pick up without having any prior information. It's all about that energy. Mm-hmm.
Well, and you have such a fascinating background with being the psychotherapist and psychic medium and all the business knowledge you have as well, that you can really kind of get to the core, it would seem, of what this is all about, what intuition means for the normal person, the normal, in parentheses, person,
Oh, well, thank you for that. And, I just think because it is so fast, oftentimes, when people come to see me, they're blocked, or they're just too close to the situation, or they've got this pattern, but they don't know. They keep finding like they might be in the same kind of rut, or they find themselves in the same sort of relationships over and over again, and yet they don't know really what's causing it. And so much of what we do, most of what we do, some research says 85% of what we do is in our subconscious, that we're not really totally aware of it. And so what I love about the intuitive world mixed with psychology and business is that it really is helpful in sessions with people to helping them quickly get at the core of what is driving them or what may be blocking them or getting in the way. Because once they have that insight, then they can typically honor it and then let it go. And, of course, teaching people how to access their own intuition so that they're listening to their soul, listening to their higher self, is what I'm also so passionate about, because when we're really in integrity with ourselves, we are in alignment with our higher self. We're listening to our intuition, which is the gateway to our soul, and that's what gives us, joy and peace. Really, with respect to the work I was doing in organizations and coming out of the closet, it was just my worst fear, because I thought, here I am, I'm supporting kids, I'm a single woman and making a living, having my own business as a consultant, and I thought, this is just, people are going to think that I've got three eyes. I'm like, well, yeah, we all do, actually. We all got a third eye. But I said to myself, really, here I am teaching leaders how to lead, which is all about being true to yourself and to be your authentic self. And you know that so well, Marianne, because you're a leader. And, and to be transparent and to be real and to speak from your heart, to speak your truth, to do what you're most passionate about, to express your soul's purpose. And I thought, and I'm not sharing one of the most important things that to me we all need to learn to listen, how to listen to our soul and to our spirit. And the most amazing thing was that when I did come out of the closet, and I trusted, and I know that for all of us, there's things that we all are so afraid of that that are inhibiting us from our greatest purpose and speaking to our highest truth, right? Mm-hmm. And this one happened to be the one for me. But what was so amazing is that when I did that, it was like the universe said, okay, now you're in complete alignment, and now we're going to help you manifest this. And it was just the craziest thing, because then a week later I got a call from a major FM morning radio show there in Denver, and they said they'd heard about my work. And so obviously, with hundreds of thousands of people, you're kind of not in the closet anymore with it. And what was so great is when I put myself out there, and with the psychic assistance and added that to the psychotherapy and management consulting, I ended up having senior executives sitting in my office asking me, what their board thought and who they should acquire and what their competitors were doing, and, how they could help their employees and how they could help themselves on a psychic basis. And so I've been integrating that for the last 16 years, and I just know that when we're in alignment with who we really are, that's when we're in the flow and in the zone, and that's when we're manifesting and where our life feels so miraculous. I hope I didn't sound too long-winded, but obviously. Oh, no.
I think that was just perfect, because it really gives a greater understanding for people who are going, gosh, what Fortune 500 company leaders are coming to you to try to figure these things out, and everyone needs help. It's not like they have all the answers all the time. And so it kind of brings me to my next question here is, what's the number one thing that you see these leaders come to you for that kind of is blocking them?
Well, and by the way, I work with all different people, including Citizens Against Homicide. I'm starting to work with San Diego DA's homicide division. I work with all different individuals. I help people get out of cruddy relationships. I help them get into great relationships, all that stuff. But on the leadership side, for leaders, Well, usually they're feeling stuck. Like, how do I best lead my team or my organization where sometimes they feel like their people might not be following them necessarily, or that maybe their people aren't as motivated as they could be, or their organization isn't growing as fast as they'd like, or maybe they don't feel like they're as efficient as they could be. It's all over the board. I mean, so sometimes it's where should I take my company strategically? Sometimes it's what do I want to do with my own career? Sometimes it's I'm having a problem employee and we're having a disconnect. How is my employee really thinking or feeling about this situation? Sometimes it's how does my board or my boss feel about me? How can I improve my own performance? Sometimes it might be, I had a guy who was looking to make an acquisition, and he read off 30 companies, and I said, this one company is worth acquiring. And all I had was the names. I think this one company would be a good one, and I said, in fact, I think that they're going to call you this week. And he called me the next day and said, sure enough, that company did call them the next day, and he ended up acquiring them. So,
wow.
So
that's pretty.
Yeah.
It's always great to get those confirmations, even though we don't know them, don't need them. But it's just so nice to have that, because when you trust spirit, it just keeps showing up as like, of course things are going to do this, go this way, and it's not a.
Oh, I know. I know. And, oftentimes it's like I had another guy who was a CEO, and he had a lot of problems with his chief operating officer and everything. And so sometimes, and, I helped and gave the perspective psychically of the COO. And sometimes it's really helpful, oftentimes it is, for resolving conflicts to understand where somebody else is really coming from, especially when they don't feel that they can actually say what they want to say. And after I gave them some insights, then, I brought them together so that they could have a more real conversation and stuff. So oftentimes it's really helping people better understand where somebody else is coming from, because, most of the time, I mean, the people in the organization are all doing their best. They're trying their best. And typically it's not, hey, somebody's just not motivated or whatever. Usually they really want to try. They really want to give it their best. But there's like some kind of a style conflict or personality conflict and that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. It's just fascinating how, working with someone like you and using our intuition allows us to work through these situations where a lot of times people feel like, it's impassable,
Yeah. And it really, I know, because we all have our, like our beliefs and our preconceived notions, and sometimes these limiting beliefs and everything, and we all can get in our box, and so you're so right. Like, I really love helping people see out of the box so that they can see other alternatives and options. And, oftentimes how we, think someone's feeling about us is not really even the reality, especially when it's, based on our own fears, and stress, because we get really paranoid.
Well, and you're so right, because with those limiting beliefs that everyone's carrying around their little sack of those, and it's really our job to work through those during our lifetime so it doesn't color everything, but if we don't, then conflict happens, and it's usually, just misunderstanding or miscommunication.
Absolutely. And, we all, whether it's, our relationships with our kids or our parents or, at work or with our significant others, a mate, we all develop those beliefs in childhood, as you well know, and our way of seeing the world and our lens. And what we do is we bring that into all of our relationships, and oftentimes, we think how someone else is behaving is a result of something we did, or we carry the weight of somebody else's choices or what have you, and it's just so important to have a great understanding of how it is that we developed over time so that we can see the lens clearly and our perception of how we go through life clearly, so that we can break free from thinking that, everything that's going on outside of us is because of something we're doing or we're not doing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Like we can own our own stuff.
Yeah, and it's really, it gets to this place where it brings a lot of personal empowerment because we don't, wear the victim robe. We're like, wow, okay, this is just stuff that's happening because I'm not seeing things in a way that, because my childhood is coloring this, or my last relationship is affecting how I'm viewing the situation.
Yeah, and so much of it is fear-driven. And oftentimes that's not, and in fact, this is a huge part of my work is helping people with stress and anxiety, and with that, the brain looks pretty much the same if it's a depressed brain, and the research shows that in America that 80% of Americans say they're either very or extremely stressed. And that's a huge issue because over time and situation, when we're stressed, it's actually neurotoxic to the brain, and it shrinks our prefrontal cortex, leaving the primitive brain, which is in charge of fight, flight, or freeze response. So when that happens, we tend to get really paranoid. We tend to make mistakes. We tend to be short-sighted in our thinking. We tend to either be more aggressive or we'll become more avoidant, argumentative, and, of course, depressed, and all of that. I call it like the dumbing down of America is our own stress level. And the big problem with it is not only are we killing ourselves inadvertently because of it in this country and getting sick, but also we're not able to be as intuitive because stress is the antithesis of being intuitive. And so it's keeping us from listening to our higher self, our soul, and our truth and our higher purpose.
On that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been listening to Karen Storsteen. She's been talking about intuitive intelligence. And we'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
The highly acclaimed and newly released book, The Hand Part 2 by Lynn Van Praag Grattan, describes the journey between a psychic medium and a family who lost a son. Messages from Beyond Eternity's Gate is of love and healing. For more information, visit www.lynnvanpraag-grattan.com. That's www.lynnvanpraag-grattan.com.
back to Moments with Marianne. I am so delighted that we're spending this next half of the show with Karen Storsteen, and she's talking to us today about intuitive intelligence. So, Karen, I understand that you have an event coming up in Colorado in just a couple weeks.
I do. And so the event is really about how to listen to your intuitive guidance system, to listen to your heart, to listen to your gut, to listen to your soul, and really to reduce that stress that we have so that people can be in that place of calm and peace. Because if we're not calm and peaceful, there's no way that we can listen to our intuition, and we can't even manifest. Because to manifest and bring to us that which we desire, we have to be in a place of peace and joy, because it's all energy. So I help people go into these states where they slow down their brain waves, and these states of mind where they can be very calm so that they can listen to themselves. And I do a lot of different assessments so that people can see if they're on the right track, and the degree to maybe where they might be off track, and to help people who are, faced with a fork in the road or a life issue that they're trying to solve, or maybe they're in a major transition and they're trying to figure out which way to go, maybe a career change, or wondering about a relationship change. Maybe it's in their business. Whatever it is that they bring to the class, they're going to get clear on their direction. They're going to get clear on their higher purpose, and they're going to be able to be intuitive not only for themselves but others. In fact, I just did a similar class in Carlsbad a few weeks ago, and one of the students who came to the class has never experienced peace before, and she said she experienced peace for the first time in her life, and said it was life-changing, and she had this breakthrough experience, and her intuitive abilities went through the roof, and she was intuiting for people where she knew information about loved ones on the other side. She was able to intuit about one of the participants' sons who had been having issues, to really help that participant see it from a different perspective with total validity. And she said, I blew my own mind with how intuitive I am. I didn't know I had these gifts, which is, Marianne, that's really why I do what I do, because people will blow their minds how brilliant they are. Most people have no idea how brilliant they are and what they know. Yeah, so those are just some of the things.
That is just such a beautiful story. I'm so glad you shared that with us, because, one of my questions was, and I'm sure you probably get this, if, people are thinking, gosh, this sounds like a great workshop, it's breakthrough with intuition, and they say, well, but I'm not intuitive. I never feel anything, or I never, I don't see anything, What do you do when people say those kind of things?
And in fact, I had a lot of students who did say those things at the beginning of the class or ahead of time. And here's what I'll promise them is that, they think that they're not intuitive, but they actually are a lot more intuitive than they think they are. They just haven't focused on it to know. And so there's that. And then the other thing is if their stress is high, because, in fact, I had a lady, and she said, I've done so many intuitive classes, and I'm still not intuitive. And I said, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how high is your stress level? And she said, it's a 10. And I said, well, that's why, because we need to get your stress level down so that we slow down your brain waves so that your subconscious can speak, your intuition can speak, and you can be open. So I do all these different exercises to facilitate that calmness and that slowing down of the brain, and to open the heart so that people can receive this information. And they all do, because we're all intuitive. It's our birthright. It's natural. It's just like, again, all of us can sing, It's just that sometimes we've been told we can't. But we can.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's just part of being, it's like we all can breathe, It's the same.
Yes. Yeah, it's your soul. You have a soul. Yeah, you're intuitive. Uh-huh. But we can all, it's like a muscle though, and we can all increase our intuition, and it's sort of like you start with baby steps and you start slowly, and in this class it's kind of like a building thing, so one thing builds on another thing, which builds on another thing, and so that by the end of the class, people are all in that state where they're like, wow, I'm so intuitive, and their vibration, their energy is so high that they just are in a state where they're like, I can manifest. Like I've gained insights into why I'm blocked so that I can move forward. And it's a blast. We just have a blast too. It's fun. It's playful as well.
Well, and, I'm sure it's got to be just such a great time for you because you get to see all these people and their energy as they're making these shifts.
Oh, my gosh. Well, so true. And, I love doing the exercises, and sometimes I'll do the exercises for myself, too, like, what's my body telling me right now? I better listen to my body. What is it saying to me right now? And so it's so funny that you said that because after I did this last class in Carlsbad, and we had fun. We all got together. People made lifelong friends, and they really did. And we got together and had some dinners and stuff like that afterward. And it was so funny because I said, the following week, I said, well, I've got to really get back to work because I feel, like I've just been, playing and everything. And it was so funny because one of the participants of the class said, wait a minute, you worked all weekend during this class. And I said, oh, my gosh, you're right, I did. I don't even think of it that way. It's just like getting these great, minds together and adventuring and, just really connecting. And there is a playfulness to all of it, which is a great state. Children aren't afraid, and children are so in tune. And when you're playful, you're in the zone. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. You can feel it, and things don't feel like work because it's so much fun.
It's so much fun, and I love what I do, and I want everybody to love what they do. Life is too short not to enjoy what we do. It really is.
Well,
so listeners, if you're on a path where you don't like what you do, let's get you off of it and change it to use your greatest gifts and follow your passion. I promise you'll be prosperous that way in all ways.
And this is the perfect time of year to start making those kind of changes, those life changes. It's beginning of the year. We've got the new year right behind us. And of course, you've got this great workshop that's coming up. And let's say, people are across the country, around the world, and maybe they can't make it to the workshop. Do you work with people like over phone or Skype?
I do it all the time, and actually now, I do. I have people all over the world, and with my move to down to San Diego, I moved almost all of my clients who were in Colorado, except I do go back there periodically, but they're all by phone, and so yeah, I do phone and I do Skype, and there was a time where I thought many years ago when I became a psychotherapist 16 years ago, I thought I would never do work on the phone. But it makes so much sense. And I've had clients for 7 years who I've never met in person. But you don't skip a beat because we're picking up on each other's energy, and there's nothing lost in the translation. There's nothing lost in terms of the intuitive side, or the connection. There just isn't. So, and people can certainly fly out, though. I do have a lot of people are flying in for it.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's beautiful there, Colorado. We're going to be in the mountains. So I say, hey, get on a plane and fly out. We'll all go skiing after.
And even if you don't ski, it's worth the trip,
Yeah.
A life-changing event, and be able to really get those answers to the questions that have been blocking you on your path, and kind of moving things forward. And you've got to love that. My goodness, it's got to be just such a thrill for you to see someone's energy who's like totally stuck, and then getting them to the place where you can see their energy just blossom.
It really is, and thanks for that, Marianne. In fact, this is. I love when this happens, actually, because I had some people after the class, and they said, well, and even during the class, and they said that they were hearing this like really high buzzing, and it's kind of that sound, and they said that they were buzzing so high, their vibration, they were hearing it. And I know that people listening have had that experience, and some people think, oh, it's just an ear problem or whatever. But in my experience, I didn't even know until about 8 years ago what that high buzzing was, and I realized that it was operating at a very, very high vibration level, and oftentimes it's divine guidance, it's Spirit's way of trying to get a hold of you so that you listen. And so, in fact, for me, when I'm not even intuiting, or maybe I'm not doing a session or tuning into somebody on the other side, oftentimes I'll have that very high pitch, and it's Spirit's way of saying, listen, there's a message or someone's here, and then my other ear will go deaf so that I get that information. So anyway, yeah, people leave where they're vibrating so high, their energy's so high, and when we do that, there's something, as you already know, it's called quantum duality, and when you're in that high vibration, you're able to bring to you that which you desire. You're in that place to manifest from that level of energy, because you're kind of like, what's the word for it? Gravity. It's kind of like gravity, where you become this pull, you have this attractor pattern. Yeah.
You gotta love that. And I know many people have experienced that. I've experienced it myself. And then knowing, hey, this is a tool that I can use to manifest a better life, or, my dreams, or whatever it is, it really gives people some kind of, like, I guess, hope, like, hey, we can turn things around, and and I have a roadmap now.
Yeah. Exactly. And they do, and we can do it so much faster than we think we can, And I've also had clients who have had years of, some of them have had years of psychotherapy, and then, sometimes they'll come and they'll say, what I've gotten in an hour is so much clearer than what I've learned in like 20 years, because they're able to get to their subconscious so much more quickly to see what might be getting in the way. Again, there's just nothing faster. And then listening to that divine guidance, which is always there, always helping us. We're never alone. And really able, helping people to access that.
Yeah, so they can move forward.
Yeah.
Earlier you had talked in regards to when you do appointments over the phone and Skype, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because the thing is a lot of times people think if they connect with somebody that's as gifted as you, to do an appointment, that the appointment's somewhat diminished if they do it via Skype or the phone and not in person.
Yeah, and it's not because it is all energy, and so it's so funny how we think as human beings. But I'll have someone call and they'll say, "Well, I'd like to come see you because I'd like to connect with my grandmother who died 6 years ago or something," and I'll say, okay, well, you can come in person, or if you want to do it over the phone. And they're like, but how can you do that over the phone? And it just cracks me, because I'm thinking, well, how is it that I'm able to connect with somebody on the other side? The other side doesn't care if you're in the other side doesn't care if that person's in front of me or not, or how is it, on radio, it's so funny because on FM morning radio, I would get these calls and, in the station and everything, and I can't see these people, and they'd be asking me about a boyfriend that, might be in Japan or whatever. And it would be so funny because I'd be tuning in and I'd give them the information. They'd say, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he did say that yesterday. That's what he always says, what have you. And then they'll set an appointment with me after, and they'll say, I didn't even give you my real name because I didn't want it on the air. And but I realize it doesn't matter. I don't even need a name because it's all energy, and there's something called non-local communication or quantum entanglement. And that says that communication in the quantum world occurs across time and space faster than the speed of light. And so basically what we're learning is that everything's energy, everything's interpenetrated with everything else, and you already know this, that we are not bound by our skin, that we have expandable, permeable energies that we're able to all the time connect with each other, which is like one of the reasons why a lot of people, will say, hey, I was just thinking of a good friend of mine. I haven't talked to that person maybe for 3 years, and all of a sudden they're in your brain, and all of a sudden you get this phone call from them because we're always picking that information up all the time. It's kind of like a sea of energy exists, and that we're all white caps on this ocean of energy, and that we're all connected.
Yeah. That divine connection within each of us, with all of us, it's interesting. Or another example, it's like if some kind of a tragedy happens, how we can all feel so deeply for it,
Yes, yeah. And even like before it happens, a lot of people felt 9/11 before 9/11 happened, and because we're all precognitive too, where we can pick up information in the future too. So yeah, I know it really is about love, and it's really about empathy and to feel into the world of another. And again, it has nothing to do with the physical. It has nothing to do with body language at all. It's just that energy, and that energy, it's all consciousness, whether that consciousness is what we consider on the other side, which is kind of a funny thing to say. That's just kind of how we understand it, or if it's here. Because oftentimes I'm telepathic too, and so sometimes it's funny when people say, can you tune into so-and-so? Sometimes I won't know if they're on the other side or they're here, but I'm picking up, valid information, correct information, but it's consciousness. So sometimes it's hard to tell if it's over on the other side or it's here. Yeah. Consciousness goes on.
Mm-hmm. And you're just getting the information to, relay the message or to make that connection.
Yes. Exactly. In a helpful, healing way. Yeah.
Well, and so at your workshop that you're going to have, Breakthrough with Intuition, what are some of the things that the participants will learn? I know we've been talking about some of it, when we talk about, kind of experiencing their intuition and being able to just kind of open up and get out of that stress level. What are some of the other things that they're going to be able to uncover when they're there?
Yeah, well, so one of the things they're going to figure out is, how to know if it's their intuition versus their fear or their egoic mind, speaking.
That's a good one.
Sometimes that's a really hard one. And, for all of us, like, wait, is this my imagination, or is this my fear talking, or is it really my gut? Is it really my intuition? And then they're also going to be able to assess the degree to which they're using their intuition today, and whether they really are on the right path. And then they're going to discover the mysteries of their own soul's existence, and what they're here on planet Earth to learn and to become. And yeah, which is so cool. Like, what am I even doing here in the first place, right? And then
I think all of us ask that question.
Yeah, right. What am I? And we know this. We've all had wounding and stuff, but it's also learning, like, well, what is it that these wounds or these pains that I've had, these experiences I've had, are really waking me up to? Because I believe that our greatest wounds are a wake up to our calling. And who better to teach than someone who's had a lot of wounding, to teach whatever it is, whether it's growing up with an abusive father, or alcoholic parent, or growing up with some kind of a disability. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And then people are going to come with problems, difficult problems, and decisions that they're trying to make, and they're going to set the intention that by the end of the workshop, they're going to have solved that problem and made that decision, and that they're going to be clear about it. And the way that they're going to be able to do that is they're going to learn many methods and tools to access their psychic and intuitive abilities, so they're going to play with some of those things. They're going to expand their perception so that they can connect to all planes and dimensions. And then, of course, I'm going to teach the science behind how does this work, quantum physics and neuroscience and the psychology behind all of this. And then they're going to learn and experience several exercises, again, to reduce that stress so that they can, have a sense of peace and literally expand and rewire their brains. So lots of things, and just to really get through those unconscious blocks, like what is blocking people from, reaching their highest potential and gaining insight to what those blocks are, so that they can really work through them and to manifest. So those are just some of the things, and then they'll be. What they're here to do. And they'll be able to connect with people. They'll be able to connect with loved ones on the other side if they choose. And they're going to be able to really help other people, solve their issues and work with others to help, the other participants gain clarity too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, what a packed workshop. And then do they have, because I know usually your workshops, I mean, they are just flooded with people. Are they going to have some one-on-one time with you?
That's a great question. They always have one-on-one time with me. And I'm also offering before the workshop that they would be able to have a one-on-one session with me. So especially if they, haven't had an experience with me, that they will have an hour with me, and I will do an intuitive counseling session or intuitive coaching session with them to help them get clear about whatever it is that they're trying to get clear about, and then to help them really hone in what it is that they really want to get out of the workshop, so that by the end of the 2 days, they leave feeling, really fulfilled. Mm-hmm. But yes, they'll have one-on-one time with me, and they have one-on-one time with, or not one-on-one, but they have the assistance from the other students as well. Because when you get people like minds in a room together, and you have that energy that is so much higher because there's a group of us. It's so helpful to each participant in terms of helping each participant move forward because the energy in the group. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes perfect sense. I've always appreciated having groups like that to be a part of, because you do, make these great friendships, and you have people that are of like minds, and you're learning kind of the same thing, that relates to everyone's life in a different way. But it kind of helps you to keep moving forward, and you get to meet a whole lot of people, which is always what we want to do. We want to connect with other people that are interested in this type of stuff as well.
Oh, yeah, we do, and which is so great that you do the show that you do, Marianne, because what I find is that a lot of people feel like, they're by themselves and they're lonely, and they're like, hi, I have, these beliefs or ways of thinking and everything, but I feel like I want to find my soul tribe, where they just like, I wish other people thought like I did, and and so and to have people who are so genuine and loving and supportive and transparent, and together in a room is just amazing. And of course, a lot of people, to your question, like would they have one-on-one time with me? I mean, of course, a lot of people who have been to my workshops have worked with me before in counseling, or at least on an intuitive basis, or they work with me after as well. So, it's a relationship. I don't just think, oh, okay, well, this person attended and then I don't see them. I build relationships with people over time, and I love the people I work with. I really grow to love the people that who I work with counseling and on a counseling basis, as well as the intuitive side.
Yeah, it really is a journey with like minds, and what's great is they can always reach back out to you either before the class, during, or after, to connect with you to continue that insight.
Of course, yeah. It's it's all a process. We're always in this state, I think, of really becoming, and we're always working through our stuff, and so yeah. I mean, I've worked with people off and on, sometimes for years, and they become my friends.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that. Because you're all about community, so I don't doubt that at all.
Well, yeah, and you develop develop a relationship, and honestly, Marianne, I just one of the reasons I love doing the psychotherapy work too, and the counseling work too, is just because it's such an honor to have people share their most intimate moments of their lives with you, and there's nothing superficial. There's no chit chat about it. It's just always so real, and I value that so much. And honestly, I would do what I could do for free if I was in that position, because people always say, well, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, I'm never going to retire. This is what I've always done. I just have education and business cards now, but it's not. It's who I've always been. I can't imagine doing anything different. So it's a gift to me, and I just so appreciate it.
Well, gosh, we appreciate you and sharing your giftedness with all of us, and of course, talking about just intuitive intelligence in your workshop. Oh, and real quick too, aren't you having private appointments in the Lone Tree area in Colorado?
I am. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I mean, if people can come or they can't come to the workshop and they want to see me in person, it would be great to meet people in person. And so I'm going to be seeing people January 15th through the 19th. And that's going to be in Park Meadows. And if they're interested, they can, call at 303-506-6745, or they can go to my website, karensinsight.com, and, make an appointment to see me in person. That would be great.
And sign up there. And also there's the information for the workshop, Breakthrough with Intuition, which is just going to be a powerhouse. So people do want to attend that if you're in the Colorado area. If you're not, get a plane and come out here. Right,
because we're going to have it in Silverthorne, and if you're out of town at Silverthorne, we're going to be in the mountains, and it's absolutely beautiful.
These are stunning there.
Really,
oh, my goodness.
Oh, it's so stunning. It's so beautiful. Yeah, so it's just going to be really fun and relaxed, and, healing and great connecting and all that. So, yeah.
It sounds like a blast, and I can't wait, and so excited that you've been able to just share all of your insights, and, well, not all of them. We've only got an hour of it, but your insights and your wisdom with us, Karen. My goodness, what a joy it's been to have you here.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you so much for your interest and your insightful questions, and just allowing me to share something that I'm so passionate about. I really appreciate it, and I hope it's been helpful to the listeners.
Well, thank you, Karen. It's been so informative and such a joy to talk with you. Unfortunately, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, Make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.